what exactly it stands for, I don't remember, but the red ensign's not the flag of Ulster.
Well, it was mistaken for that, and you were identified as being staunchly a staunch anti-Catholic.
Well, I've been denounced as a Jew today.
Okay, we're on, folks. From New Orleans, Danville, the last capital of the Confederate States of America, Los Angeles, home of Albert Sidney Johnson's Los Angeles Mounted Rifles, and Paul Frederick from Canada. And I don't think there were any Confederate units stationed in Canada, although there was that famous bank raid once. Anyhow, happy New Year, everybody! It's January 1st, and
Happy New Year.
I think the year is off to sort of a very lumpy start. For example, I got mugged today.
No.
Yes, I did. It was black on white crime, and they didn't get anything, but they shook me up a little bit. And I was able to get away, but no bodies in the street. But I didn't even bother to report it to the New Orleans police because they just laugh at you. I've attempted it before.
They brandish a weapon?
Huh?
They brandish a weapon.
A stick. A stick, and it looked like they had a wire attached to it, so they could have done damage if I hadn't moved fast. But as auguries on the first day of January go, it wasn't really great.
I guess you were lucky to have run into the B team.
Though the B team?
Yeah, I mean, these weren't the real.
The B team, yes. This was not an A team bang. This might have even been the C- team. And it was on Louisiana Avenue in the heart of the Garden District. So it's just not a great, I mean, who knows, maybe he was hungover from partying last night, but that was how my day started the new year. How did you all start?
Well, we had a party here last night that in my age, I did not attend. I went to bed early and got up early and took care of the horses and the animals and just had a slow day.
Sounds nice. Jessica, what you've been doing on the first day of 2022?
So I went and visited my grandmother, and of course, in the South, we have this tradition that is brought by the Confederacy. And hold on, let me bring this up because this is very important that everyone knows this. Hold on. So what I'm referring to, did everyone have their first meal this year? Meaning the peas, the black-eyed peas, and their turnip greens, and hog jowl, or any kind of ham.
Jessica, that doesn't even sound kosher.
Of course, it's not kosher, but anyway. So there's.
Are you trying to show us something, by the way, because we aren't seeing it? You need to hit share screen.
Actually, you got from the South, and that dishes were very common in our household growing up. We used to have black-eyed peas, and we used to have truck salad and hog jowls. We used to have that, and collard greens. Yeah, we had all that.
Okay, so that tradition, so it's black-eyed peas in the South. If you are planning to celebrate the new year in the Southeast, it is most likely that you will be offered black-eyed peas in some form, either just after midnight or on New Year's Day. From gala gourmet dinners to small casual gatherings with your friends and family, these flavorful legumes are traditionally, according to the Southern folklore, the first food to be eaten on New Year's Day for luck and prosperity throughout the year ahead. So why are black-eyed peas for good luck? The practice of eating black-eyed peas for luck dates back to the Civil War. Originally, they were used as a food for livestock. Because they were of low reputation, the Union Army troops of General Sherman ignored the fields of the black-eyed peas while ravaging the Southland and stealing all the other crops. During the harsh winter, the Confederate soldiers survived on the remaining black-eyed peas, promoting this humble and nourishing legume into a symbol of fortune and prosperity in the American South. So why does this tradition say that you will eat your black-eyed peas? So today, in tradition, eating black-eyed peas for the New Year's evolved into a number of variations. So served with collard greens, it varies regionally, of course. You can do collard, mustard, whatever, turnip greens. The peas represent coins and the greens represent paper money. Cornbread is often served with the black-eyed peas and greens to represent gold. So
I've never heard that whole story before. That's pretty interesting. I knew about Sherman and the black-eyed pea fields, but Jessica, are you trying to show us something? Because you've just disappeared. Your face has disappeared, but we're not seeing anything.
well, I know because I did it on purpose. But anyway, that's the story behind the black-eyed peas. So make sure before the day is over, I guess, to eat your black-eyed peas and your turnip greens.
I will have black-eyed peas every New Year's Day for the rest of my life. After that, I didn't know that. My great-grandfather's name was Jefferson Davis Simmons, and his wife was Fannie Lou Lawson. Fannie Lou Lawson's father was tied to a wagon wheel by the Northern soldiers and pushed over a hill and killed in Tennessee. And so we do, the only side on my side that fought in the Civil War were on the South, because my Johnson line, they ran off to Utah before the Civil War took place. But on my mother's side, it was all South against the North. So I'm going to have black-eyed peas with my family from here on out. Thanks, Jessica.
I had a more conventional start to the day. It was the tail end of a New Year's Eve party I had for a few of my political friends here in Hamilton, and we watched a few videos, a couple by Jared Taylor, a couple of other ones. We had a lot of good political talk. It's hard to believe 8 people could make so much noise, but we had a good time, and they hung around till about 2:10 a.m. and it was a good way to bring in the new year, and we have hopes it'll be a better one, but there's plenty of reason to be very apprehensive.
Can you show Jessica, you're on the right side. Can you refocus? You have a picture of Robert E. Lee on your wall, don't you?
Who? Oh, Paul. Okay.
Me?
Paul. Yeah, you. Don't you have?
Yes, but not here, not in this room.
Oh, not in this room. Okay. Oh well. Okay, we won't worry about it. I
I
promise you, even though he's Canadian, he's here for a reason. And anyhow, I mean,
I think something. When I was at Harvard Law School, I went to visit a couple of Jewish kids. They weren't really friends, but they're friends of friends, and they had a big old picture on the wall, and it looked exactly like Karl Marx. And said, what have you got Karl Marx on the wall for? And they said, well, we thought it was Karl Marx, but we had someone come by and said it was actually Walt Whitman. So maybe we should make sure that Paul Fromm's picture is actually Robert E. Lee. It might be somebody else.
No, it is Robert E. Lee.
pretty funny. Oh my goodness. Well, none of you, I guess, got my message, right? None of you actually got my proposal that we discussed, redefining America, or redefining Americanism, to our own selves be true. And I'll just read you what I wrote for the record. The removal of the Confederate and pre-Confederate and even pre-American monuments like Christopher Columbus from public space is one thing. It's heartbreaking and seriously emotionally traumatic. It's also a betrayal of core American values. But the delivery of these monuments to Black activist museums, especially in both Richmond and Charlottesville, and to the Los Angeles Museum of Contemporary Art, is almost too much. If you're not familiar with the Los Angeles plan, see the link below, which supposedly started right after the removal of pre-Confederate US Vice President John Caldwell Calhoun's statue from Charleston. We speak of the need to create white ethnostates, but what will these ethnostates really be? Will they mark the birth of new ethnicities like Texan or Louisianan, or will they be remnants of America and Canada and Australia maybe, and England? I think we need to start a continuing dialogue on this point, and I hope that we will be able to develop a new series of podcasts just around this topic. How can we be true to ourselves if we don't know who we are? Do we want to risk or accept the model of Eric Zemmour in France, an olive-skinned Jewish fascist of North African origin? If Barack Obama had a son, could he be the American Zemmour? Just for example. I am deeply depressed and deeply disturbed, and that was before I got mugged. And I hope you are also, but not mugged. Toppled Confederate statues will be paired with contemporary art in LA Contemporary's new Monuments exhibition opening sometime this summer. I think they're negotiating for the New Orleans monuments, which is, just adding insult to injury here. I presume they won't get the Charlottesville monument because it's the heaviest, I believe, and it would be very expensive to ship out to Los Angeles before they melt it down. So I feel like this really is an assault on Americanism, the very concept of who and what we are. And that's why I wanted to get together with you all today.
Well, let me just address the issue first. I mean, I think it's sad what you've mentioned, and it's just one facet of the dismantling of the founding stocks establishment of this country. But I think statues can be rebuilt. They can be recast, and what we need now more than the preservation of these statues, we need to have leaders of the stature of our former settlers and leaders to once again take repossession of our future. So that's what we need. I mean, of course, I'm sad with them taking on the statues, but I'm looking to see who is on the horizon that can change the course of this country. That it seems like it is almost a Herculean task to get us going in another direction. Maybe the taking down of these statues will help spark some of the traditional Americans to rally around the heretofore undisclosed leader, take us in a better direction.
I think that that's a good long-range goal, but I think there is a more immediate task that may create the atmosphere for such a leader to emerge. And one of our fathers of Confederation, Joseph Howe from Nova Scotia, he's a journalist, among other things. He wrote, "A wise nation preserves its records, gathers up its monuments, decorates the tombs of its illustrious dead, repairs its greatest structures, and fosters national pride and love of country by perpetual references to the sacrifices and glories of the past." Now, bad is the attacks on the Confederate monuments and previous Senator Vice President Calhoun, and we've had somewhat similar, a similar attacks up here. That's the wrecking crew of our enemy. However, we ourselves have to help preserve our history. We have to tell our story to our children and to anybody else who listen. And we have a medium right here with the podcast. Who's important in our history? What our children are learning about mostly schools in Canada and the United States is the colonial history was just a horrible thing. We genocided the Indians, which wasn't true. You enslaved the blacks, and we're just all rotters until maybe a few years ago, when good people like Obama and Trudeau up here came along. I mean, it's total bullshit, but that's what people hear. Kids in our schools hear the accomplishments of European man were these. We genocided the Jews, we enslaved the blacks, we raped the environment, we dispossessed the native people, and we have bad breath. Now, those are our accomplishments as white people. Now, what are we telling our children and telling each other? Not the four of us here, because we pretty much know, but telling other people in the movement what we have to be proud of and celebrating it. And I don't mean just talking here, having an event, even if it's for 20 people to commemorate whatever it might be, a battle in the South, a leader, Robert E. Lee's birthday, which I think is your
Martin Luther King Day.
Yeah, didn't Hoover call him the biggest liar in the USA? Well, the biggest liar in the USA, his birthday. At this time, there may not be much you can do about that, but you can celebrate with your friends Robert E. Lee's birthday. And for those who perhaps don't really know much about him, or, well, why would we celebrate his birthday? Tell them. We've got to instill pride in our people. And once we're proud, there won't be these monuments coming down. It was the failure of white people that allowed the wrecking crew to do that. It wasn't the blacks didn't do it on their own. And it's the people who are quarterbacking the blacks, and you know what I mean.
Bill, in relation to Bill's question, I had a little conversation with Jessica about this earlier today. People of her generation who do know the truth are very reluctant to try to step into leadership positions. And you, Paul, and you all have met Chardonnay.
Yes.
And I think that Chardonnay here in Louisiana is spooked. I think her friends have scared her and basically told her that associating with David Duke and me and people like y'all is going to destroy her reputation. And so the very thing that makes her attractive and viable as a potential political candidate, that is, she's very popular and very, very well liked and very, very, very social in a state where social standing means almost everything. I get the feeling, she is really torn. And how do we answer that? How do we say our society, the society that we offer, is the real thing and it's better? How can we get a movement going that provides the social background, the social milieu, if you will, for a political background? I mean, Robert E. Lee had it. He had all of Virginia's society behind him. So John Caldwell Calhoun had all of South Carolina behind him. And now South Carolina has Nikki Haley and Lindsey Graham, two of the, most rancid rhinos around. They really are. They're just rotten.
Well, not to be critical, because God knows there's lots to be critical about here, but how did white South Carolinians ever vote for a half Sikh to be their governor? I mean, my God, was there not a white man or woman in South Carolina who could take the job? I mean, that's outrageous. And it's partly because I think so many of our people are being propagandized by equality. We're all the same, we all bleed red or whatever it is, except those of us who bleed blue. If you're dominated by mental sewage, you make these mistakes. I certainly agree with you about Nikki Haley.
Well, I mean, look at California, where Bill Johnson is. I mean, I remember the very first trip I ever took to California, and I remember my grandfather talking about his first trip to California and how basically this was in the 1920s, and he drove out there in a Model T Ford, and he basically, he was a young man, obviously, and he was talking about how it was a blonde paradise. He had never seen so many gorgeous blonde girls and women in his entire life. And that is the state that gave us Kamala Harris.
Well, I'm old enough to remember the California of the 1960s and one of the famous Beach Boys songs. I think they wish
they all could be California
girls, and the picture accompaniment of beautiful blonde women. The California girl today is Chiquita Banana.
Well,
yes.
Go back, well, with the exception of Bill Johnson's family.
To go back to your question with regarding to what we can do, I think we need to start off by taking baby steps. And I mean, so many of the people who think like we do, they hide behind pseudonyms. They're not forthright. They hide their light under a bushel, or they don't put their light on the hill, or whatever it was from the Sermon on the Mount that the reference I'm making. We need to be forthright and stand firm in our views and let everybody see what our views are, hear what our views are, and let the chips fall where they may. Now, of course, people get doxxed, people lose their job, and a lot of sort of high profile people everywhere from white coaches down to lowly office workers. Many of them who've come out with our views get doxxed and terminated. But our views are just, moral, and proper. And so we need to stand firm, upright, not behind pseudonyms, not hide our views. We need to be forthright in everything that we stand for. And that will help change the tide, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you. A shadowy movement of pseudonyms and so on is not going to, in the long run, command respect or loyalty. But I might say, when people are doxxed and damaged or hurt or fired or whatever, how many of us have actually leapt to their defense, or at least contacted them if we can, to support them? It can be awfully lonely when suddenly you're the victim, and even your friends kind of have lost your phone number or your email address. I've been there. I'm not complaining. Actually, I had many good friends, but
Paul, before you go on, I think I remember you weren't a school teacher, and didn't that happen to you?
Yeah.
This was before doxing was even a word.
That's right. Back in those days, it was a place you moored your boat. I was victimized by a 6-year campaign by the Canadian Jewish Congress and other like-minded people, not for anything I ever did in the classroom or anything I ever taught, but basically my anti-third world immigration stand and my pro-free speech stand, all advocated, on my own time off school property.
Jessica's been very quiet over there, and I know that she's under direct attack because she's in the League of the South, and Jessica has had a cleaner record than anybody I know, who's been directly attacked, and yet, it's interesting. She's got this flag. I want you all to talk about Quantrill's Raiders for a minute, because she's almost in the position of Quantrill's Raiders up in Virginia and North Carolina, and the priority issue for her is to deny her the right to keep and bear arms. and she has been attacked basically much more than I have, much more than I was today. And I'd like to hear her listening, reacting to what we're saying here.
Yeah, like he said, yes, I have. I've been put on hit list. I know several Antifa groups, not even just single individual people, but you have Richmond, of course, they put me on a list, and then Atlanta even. So I think I'm on 3 of them right now. And I mean, when I mean hit list, I mean like hit list. And then they have attacked my vehicles.
Jessica, which was the list that said fascist to ashes? Yes,
there was a when we went to the Second Amendment rally in Richmond, Virginia, they were actually physically looking for me, and they even admitted that they were looking for me, so that they could, as you say, fascist to ashes. And I think it was like 38 individuals that made this list. Your friend, I forget what her name was, but she actually made it several.
Avila?
Yeah. And then several other like media, just different entities of different sorts made this list. And of course, even several of the media outlets agreed, yeah, this is a hit list. And they reported it to the feds. And finally, the information was deleted off the page. But I mean, when you're talking about, to the extent that this is, if that would have been us, they would be at our doors, knocking on our doors right now, insinuating we were going to murder people. But because this is Antifa, they don't even budge. I remember the FBI specifically saying, well, what do you want me to do about it? You need to go to your local police department. And so the local police says, well, that's a little above our pay grade. Oh, that's right. The Police Incorporated. So that particular situation. And then, of course, then you have North Carolina, who basically targeted me to make an example out of me because of my different ideology. And they know that I've been put on a hit list. And they was even given copies of this. And that was even put on the front page of the newspaper to indicate that I was a white supremacist. And also there was pamphlets given out to individuals that later became a jury when I was found guilty in Superior Court. But again, the flyers were given out at a voting station in the county. The police didn't do anything about that, and that also indicated again that I was a white supremacist and I had an ongoing court trial.
Okay, can you tell me?
But yeah,
hello, I want to know what court trial was this? What were you charged with?
I was charged with weapons at parades and demonstrations. See, I was supposed to meet 2 friends to go see the monument because they were going to take it down. There's a law that says.
Tell them where it was. This is in Pittsburgh, North Carolina.
Yeah,
a very small town.
Yeah. So the state law says you can't remove the monuments because they're protected by this preservation bill. Well, and I know the only laws, they only pertain to people like us, the board of commissioners, local governments and such. They can all just break the law left and right. But for us, obviously we cannot, and obviously we'll suffer the consequences as I have done. And so they arrested me and said that I was participating in a rally when I had a flag draped over my arm. And then I had a firearm that was in the glove box of my truck or in the center console. I went to retrieve the weapon so that I could walk to the monument with my 2 friends that had finally arrived. And of course, these people, the people that were in Pittsburgh, they were actually the ones that came to my hometown. So it was totally unprovoked. I didn't even know who these people were. And so they came in and they tried to beat me up, to steal my flag, my Confederate flag, so that they could burn it. And the particular people that was there, they had already been arrested and charged for the vandalism of another piece of property similar to a flag. Imagine that. But then their charges were dismissed.
Now tell about the time that you were surrounded in Danville.
Yes, I was just attending a UDC meeting, a United Daughters of the Confederacy meeting. That's it. I was not I wasn't even part of the League of the South back then. I was part of the heritage groups, the ones who push that heritage, not hate crap. And, you try to feed to the masses and try to be that really nice person or whatever. Well, I was part of the Virginia Flaggers, the Army of Northern Virginia and the Order of Confederate Rose. But since then, of course, I've been kicked out of all these organizations except for A and V. But it's just kind of funny how all the people that were there in those particular groups, they all abandoned me. And when they certainly abandoned me, Antifa tried to attack me, and the only thing that saved me was my firearm. So, of course, I'm not going to walk around without a firearm at this point. These people have tried it once, and certainly they're not afraid because the police stand idle and do absolutely nothing to protect anyone because it's not their job to protect people. Again, they're the Police Incorporated. They're there to make money and profit, and if they have to provide citizens like you and me protection, then why do they? I mean, they're certainly not making any money off of that. So,
well, were you convicted of these crimes, or what happened?
Yes, I was convicted for carrying a gun at a demonstration, which basically, like I said, I wasn't there with these other people. I didn't even know who these people were. They were locals. I live 120 miles away from the town of Chatham County or Pittsburgh, and so I wasn't part of any groups or nothing like that. Sorry about my dog, but because I wasn't part of any groups, I didn't even know what was going on. I didn't know if there was anything going on that day. And then of course they accused me straight out of being part of this group, and immediately grouped me into breaking this law that says that you can't have a weapon on private or property owned by the state or the county or any of its political subdivisions. And honestly, at this point, I'm just trying to decipher what happened. And, every single officer admitted that I went back to my car and got something. They don't know what I got, but then, of course, they took my firearms away. Well, took my weapon away, and then took my ammo. And then they threw me in jail for about 7 or 8 hours. And then they told me that I had to walk back to my truck, which was 7 or 8 miles away. And I don't even know where I was at. So they obviously had no consideration for my safety or well-being or anything. But again, it was almost like they were trying to get me attacked because they knew Antifa was actually in the jailhouse too, because 2 of their members were arrested. And it was 5 or 6 of them inside of the jailhouse when they released me. So they basically made me walk back with hostiles out there. They could have found me out there, and who knows, But
Jessica, can you explain why Antifa is so interested in you? Because part of the story really is just that you appear to have been targeted repeatedly. Right?
Yes. When I first, got into the UDC, then I started to get into the heritage groups like the Virginia Flaggers.
UDC is United Daughters of Confederacy, and United Daughters of Confederacy, and OCR is Order of Confederate Rose.
Yeah, see, and like I said, Virginia flaggers used to make big riffs at one time. Susan, which used to be Hathaway, obviously she's married again, but anyway, Susan used to be very combative when it comes to protecting her heritage and protecting her flags and stuff. And she really rallied the individuals really good. And I mean, there's a lot of people that followed her, including our enemies, obviously. And there was one guy in particular. He called his blog the Restoring the Honor blog. And so anyone that was associated with Susan or the Virginia Flaggers was targeted. And of course, we were doxxed. And then, of course, it was, they were trying to get the Virginia Flaggers to kick everybody out that was affiliated with the League of the South. And so after they tried to attack me in my hometown, I decided I was going to join the League of the South at that point, because obviously these people over here they're not really friends. They're going to leave me for dead. So I needed someone that was a little bit more, that would actually fight for me. So that's why I joined the League. And then, of course, there was a time that the League of the South and the Virginia Flaggers actually used to march together. But then, of course, Antifa pushed it out to where they were such a big enemy, and they made the Virginia Flaggers kick a bunch of us out, which, okay. Then, of course, I started doing political stuff. I started following, people that were running for Senate and even governor. And, we wasn't paid security. We were just doing security work, free, basically. And then we went up to Charlottesville. And when Wes Bellamy was up there talking about taking the monument down of General Lee, the one that did get taken out ultimately, I know that he went up there and he was saying all kinds of really nasty stuff on Instagram, talking about he had the color of snow because it was white. If she moaned, it ain't rape. I mean, he was a dirty bastard, pardon my French, but he would say some really, really bad stuff. And he was actually kicked off of the school board for all the really bad stuff that we exposed. And so I remember Jason Kessler and the particular candidate that we were actually helping up there, he tried to get Wes Bellamy kicked off of the board of commissioners. And of course, they wouldn't listen to it. They pretty much it went in one ear and out the other. All the signatures we had were basically in vain. So, of course, that pissed off all the Antifa members. And then, of course, Charlottesville happened. And then they were pretty much taking pictures of every single person that entered into the park and then trying to dox us. So, and then, of course, now I'm a national officer for the League and also the executive officer for Virginia. So I did not shut up when I was told to, I guess. So
I'm just curious. Jessica, I think, is very forceful. Is she the sort of person who could conceivably, at least at a local level, effectively enter politics and become a leader?
Well, I think we need to have Jessica's at local level.
Yeah, Bill.
Maybe even 10,000 Jessicas on local levels. Then we can see some change. I don't know. We have to rally around our people and support people who support these views. I'm a little bit concerned that we have that our penchant for rallying around people who say things we like, not of our race. We always like to rally around conservative blacks or conservative Pakistanis or whatever it is, and not rally around our own people, because we think that if we rally around a non-white, that gives us a little more legitimacy. I think we have to support people. We have to be proud of who we are,
Didn't Virginia just elect a black lieutenant governor, Jessica?
yeah, it was. The real ironic thing about that is her name is Winston Sears or something like that. And I remember in her ad campaign, she was actually holding an AR-15, and saying that she was pro Second Amendment, and everybody really rallied around that. But there was also another individual, Amanda Chase, as well, who showed her pro Second Amendment ideals. And of course, they trashed her. And I mean, she would have been a whole lot better, of a lieutenant governor. But unfortunately, I'm not saying that she's bad, but they pretty much, the only reason that they attacked Amanda Chase was because she was white. And then Winston Sears, or whatever her name is, she is black, obviously. So again, they try to do that, like you were saying, like it's kind of like a token person. This is the one that's going to represent us. This person, we really want to rally around this minority person. It's not about what they'll actually do for the state. They're how good that they would do the state. Obviously, it's all about, well, let's just get this minority in here.
I mean, that brings up the question, sort of, have you, Paul and Bill, have you all been following the rise of Eric Zemmour in France?
Yes.
What do you think of that?
And he's putting a lot of pressure on Marine Le Pen. It's hard to take that. I mean, he says a lot of the right things and so on, but given who he is, it's hard to take him very seriously.
Now, is this the Moroccan, this Northern African person who says we got to save France for the French?
Yeah.
It's just crazy. When are we going to? This brings up an ancillary issue. I've thought, when I see like a Samoan Proud Boy, who's a Proud Boys are kind of similar like we are. They're very conservative. When I see a Samoan Proud Boy beat up an Antifa white boy, I identify with the Antifa guy because he's my own race. I can change Antifa's point of view, but I can't change the Samoans' color of skin. So this is something I just come to recently. I am offended whenever I see a non-white beat up one of our own people, even though that is my own enemy. And so, I've come around where I think race is so very important. It transcends ideology.
I think he was a Fed, wasn't he? He was an informant, the one you're talking about. So obviously he was good anyway.
Everybody's an informant, but us four.
Well, yeah, but no, I mean, I have some inside people that, vouch for that. They said that he was a Fed. Yeah, imagine that, huh?
When you say he was a Fed, which side, the Antifa side or the Proud Boy side?
He was on the Proud Boy side. The one guy, his name, what was it, Charles? What was his name?
I don't remember.
Enrique or something. I don't know. But anyway. Yeah. And now I have, one of the other guys is actually running the Proud Boys now, and he's solid white.
Okay. All right, good.
But, going back to a little bit of the thing, as far as the Confederacy goes, so, the Richmond monuments came down, and it was the most prestigious place, I say, in Virginia. It was more beautiful than Gettysburg. When I don't know if you all had ever taken the opportunity to ride down Monument Avenue in Richmond, Virginia, but I'm telling you, it was just to see, Jeb Stuart and Jackson and Maury, which I really didn't like the Maury one too much, but anyway. And then, of course, then you go into this opening in this huge circle, and there's General Lee sitting up so high, so proudly. And then, of course, you had the one, the big one that looked over the city. I mean, that thing was huge. I mean, it was the sailors, actually every branch of the military for the Confederacy. And then they have another one right now they have not taken down yet, but it's AP Hill, which is actually in the center of a roundabout. His monument is on top of him. He's actually buried standing straight up. That was his request when he passed away. He wanted to be buried standing up in his beloved city of Richmond, Virginia. So where in the world do you get that kind of stuff? I mean, what city do you go into that has that so much, mesmerizing things? I mean, but of course they've taken them down right now. And I mean, it's so junky. The town is so shitty. There's all these Negroes in there. They're just constantly murdering people, robbing people constantly. I mean, you figure with these monuments that cause all this hatred, that all this crime would just simply go away now that these monuments are gone. But no, it's actually the opposite. But, just like the UDC building up there, they have on video that they have identified the person that threw the Molotov cocktail through the window of the UDC building and burned all these records and all these artifacts, and nobody's prosecuting them. And then to add insult to injury, so the old veterans home up there that used to be where all the veterans went, because basically when they come back from the war, they didn't have anything. So they were there. They basically stayed there till they died. They had their chapel in the back. And then, of course, the UDC was right beside that building. And so now you can't carry a Confederate flag on the property, obviously. And now they've turned the old soldiers' home into a museum that has nothing in it but African American art, all this LGBTQ crap, whatever they want to call art. And then they even put a monument that copied Jeb Stuart's horse. And of course they can't make stuff up on their own, so they go in there and they put this thug on a horse, and they put it not in front of the museum, but in between the UDC building and the museum, so that it's basically another slap in the UDC's face. And then now we found out that Ralphie Blackface Northam, he decides that, well, we'll go in and we're going to take your monuments that are representing your dead, and we're going to give them to a black museum in Richmond, Virginia, and that they can decide what they're going to do with each piece. I know what you can do with each piece. Return them back to their rightful owners. I mean, everywhere you go with Martin Luther King, everywhere you go, there's some kind of memorial to him. There's some kind of bridge, some overpass. I mean, every street in America has a Martin Luther King in it. Okay, well, we go in and we do so much for them, then why can't we honor our ancestors? And they're going to go in and just like they've done General Lee already in Charlottesville, they said they have destroyed that monument already. So moving it out to Los Angeles is obviously not going to happen. But, what's going to happen to General Lee and Jeb Stuart and Maury, and then when they exhume A.P. Hill out of the ground, they take him out of the ground where his burial site and desecrate his grave.
As they did Nathan B. Forrest.
Right. And, that was family members that did that. But see, General Lee had a will. Well, not General Lee, but the person that owned the General Lee Monument had a will. And in the will, it stated that he wanted to give the property and the monument to the city on one condition, that they would take care of the monument forever. That means clean it, maintain it, and all this. And they completely went against a dead man's wish. And now they're going to do the same thing with A.P. Hill. And what do we need to do? Okay. What we need to do really is education. Because there's so many of these people that basically the only education they get is what they're hearing in this critical race theory stuff, what they're hearing the SPLC and the ADL and all these black supremacist organizations that want to keep pushing out this band-aid of slavery. And so I actually went and I wrote a letter to the Museum. Can I read it, Charles?
Yes, of course. I want to frame this in a question. Are you an American?
What do you
Are
mean?
you still an American? I guess is the question. I have been accused several times in the past week of being totally un-American. And I think it's very interesting that I am against all the things that America stands for. And so
Okay,
I'm
so
just
at
wondering,
this point, what does American mean? Okay, so
that was
American back in the
that's-
day, it used to have a really ultimate respect. Okay, we were born here, we had the rights, the Constitution, and today, what is it now? We're going to run across the border illegally, and then we're going to get a social security number. Then we're going to get free benefits, and then we're going to sit there and whine and bitch about the white people up here. Is that American? I mean, that's what it seems like when we're being basically dissolved in our own country. So, what does that mean?
I mean, that was again. I guess that my email. I sent my email out earlier today, and I was hoping everybody would think about it a little bit and read your letter, and then let's try to discuss that. I don't know if Bill, if he has to run away as fast as he often does.
Okay, give me a
I do
second.
keep turning off your screen if you're not going to.
I have to
share
see
it.
it. I don't have it in a big screen like you do.
Okay. All right.
Quit your whining. Okay, anyway, let me find it. So this was actually sent to the Black Museum that got all the monuments. So, okay, so the Confederate Memorials are dedicated to our dead, and they need to be given back to us. We honor your memorials just as you should honor our memorials. Our Virginia sons did not die to keep slaves. They fought off an invader like Sheridan and Sherman. Look these evil generals up for yourself. The Union did not care about the children, the free, or the enslaved blacks, or elderly, or even the citizens that did not take up rifles to fight them. They killed and destroyed everything. I am a member of the United Daughters of the Confederacy, and we do not honor slavery, but instead we encourage unity. The UDC gives scholarships to children without the consideration to race. Please give us credit because we are not the evil and vile things the agitators have you to believe. Everyone that is a descendant of a Confederate ancestor is not racist. We honor all veterans, including those of the current wars. The War of Northern Invasion, which is the Civil War, was fought under the reasoning of survival. If an army came to wipe your family and you had a choice to watch your children be slaughtered or watch them starve to death or fight for their survival, please tell me, do you run from this? Do you stand idle and watch? Please know that there's a human element to this war, and it is well beyond the band-aid the agitators tried to place on it. General Lee was an honorable man, just as the men that served under him. Please consider returning our memorials to us. They will be taken out of Richmond and put on private land. Please let us keep our memorials to our dead. Many of Virginia's sons were never returned home, and these memorials is all that the many moms and dads got to remember them. Can you imagine not ever knowing how your son, a father, or brother died? Was there anyone there that took the time to bury them? Or was their bodies cast into ditches or wells and even left on the battlefields for the wild animals to scatter their bones? And of course, I haven't got a reply back, but and I even sent a copy of it to the UDC, and then of course they haven't responded as well. They're so idle. I'm kind of embarrassed right now to be a UDC member at this point.
Well, that's a very matter. This whole discussion about what they've done to the monuments is moving, and it just shows how desperate we are. Thank you for writing that letter.
Yeah.
Thank
Paul,
you.
what do you think? I mean, you're a former school teacher. Would you give a grade?
Yeah, I would give that an A. and it's really important that we speak up. A lot of people feel something or have don't like something or do like something, but um, you wrote that letter, and these things count. I don't think we're going to have a lot of activism if more people aren't aware of who they are. And once we know who we are and we are proud of who we are, that motivates people. I come back to the importance of teaching our own people our national history, our regional history, and Europe's history. And there isn't a better book on Europe's history that you could use if you're a homeschooler than Clash of the Titans. It's a solid history that shows what a great people the European people are, rather than the sort of potted Marxist history that so many of our young people get today. That it's all a history of victimization, and we're the victimizers.
To harken back to the question that Charles Lincoln asked just a few minutes ago, do I consider myself an American? I identify as a Northern European, and I have close affinity to all of my people, all of my kindred, wherever they live around the world, even those who are diametrically opposed to my views and persecute me. They are my people. They are the ones that I'm trying to convert. It is important for me to be fair and just to all peoples and to treat everybody properly, but my people are Northern Europeans and the European peoples of the world.
I guess the question more specifically is, do the terms American, Canadian mean anything? Do they have any value anymore in light of this struggle?
I see them as being our nationalities. But my loyalty is to my people, is to my race, the European people. That is fundamentally who I am. My nationality is Canadian, but I might, if I were to go overseas, my nationality might be Costa Rican, but I'm not. But my real interest, my identity, is European.
But when you say nationality, you mean passport?
Yeah.
Because, yeah.
Like it's where I live, and I have an affection for the place, but I would have less affection for the place when it becomes majority third world, and as your country is quickly becoming. There's good memories, and I love the geography and all that, but fundamentally, I'm a European.
And
well, how come it is whenever our people, Anglos, Celts, Europeans, whenever we show a love, just a simple love for our people, the only thing, it's like a trigger, instantly. Everybody calls us a racist. Yeah, okay, I'm a racist because I love my race. I love my people. And why is this so bad? And then, of course, you have
their blinds, their quarterbacks are blind ass terrified of the day we recover our pride. Kipling said it beautifully in his poem, "When the Saxon learns to hate."
Right.
When we get it together, when we get angry enough about what's being done to us and proud of who we are, we're going to be unbeatable, and they know it. They know it, and so the slightest appearance of ethnic white pride it drives them bananas. I mean, to think that the attack that's gone on for a decade on Columbus Day, all of our history has to be denigrated and trashed.
Well, it's just like this flag here, the Q flag. That's not the QAnon flag. That's the Q flag, Confederate Raiders. And so it signifies, it means that people will be killed instead of taken prisoner. a second civil war or maybe a race war at this point, no quarter will be given, meaning refusing to spare the life of anyone, even the persons manifestly unable to defend themselves or who clearly express their intention to surrender. And what that means is, as you say, when the point that our people gets pushed to the point, as they say, the Saxon begins to hate. And that may ultimately become reality the way it is going.
I certainly hope so.
Well, I mean, I hope YouTube doesn't take us out if we're advocating a war where we take no prisoners. YouTube, I didn't say that, but I'm not necessarily going to refuse it. But Bill is
And our friend was only saying what Q stood for.
Right.
There's no advocacy there. I only heard a historical explanation.
Yes, and it is written in a historical explanation by a New York resident that wrote that particular insert. So it wasn't taken to be the intentions of anyone here on this podcast. Again, it is a historical value.
Almost every time I talk to Jessica, I'm going in an Uber somewhere, and I have a telephone that works a lot better on speakerphone than it does on regular phone. And so Jessica's opinion about certain ethnic groups has gotten to be sort of my trademark among ethnic Uber drivers.
Okay, you guys.
Blame me for that.
I'm going to have to take off. So
Okay. Well, but Bill, before you do, should we try to start redefining ourselves? Because you've sort of said that you have redefined yourself as something other than American. You've decided to define yourself as Northern European. And is that better than being an American at this stage? Because Sweden is in North Europe, and they're half Muslim.
Yeah. Well, I like Paul says, my passport is American, and there I have a lot of affinity for my country, and I'm hopeful that through peaceful means we can regain our sovereignty, and we'll be able to build for the future. And when Elon Musk is saying, "Oh, I'm going to put people on Mars in 30 years, 40 years," I mean, that's a grand plan, but it's not anywhere near as important as what we're doing, where we regain our identity and we have our own ethno-states where we can indeed assert our nationality as our own people.
Is it significant at all that Elon Musk is South African in origin?
Well, I think that it's significant that he has of who his parents were. I think he is quoted saying that his father was not a good man. His father was very wealthy, but had a lot of bad traits. And so much of what we are comes from our parents. So I think Elon Musk is a very good in many respects, but he has his own defects. I don't think the fact that he came from South Africa really has influenced him to the extent that we had hoped it would.
Well, anyhow, how do you all feel about making this sort of a subtopic that we pursue about defining how we identify ourselves as a movement in the future?
We can discuss it in the future. I agree.
I think it's worthwhile.
Okay, well, Bill, thank you for joining us on a Saturday evening. Paul, do you have to take off too, or can we talk a few more minutes?
Yeah, I do. Are we going to meet next Monday? Sorry, next Friday?
Friday. We'll continue doing the Friday. The
Okay.
Friday is sort of a more general one, but let's talk about when we can. When does this work for you all as a second repeating time to talk about identity?
Yes.
Usually, yes.
Okay, well, we can obviously be flexible, but let's just plan. Can we plan on doing both Friday and Saturdays?
Yes.
Okay, good night, everybody. Happy New Year. It's been a great day, and I love getting mugged. And I just hope that's not really an augury for the rest of the year.
And send me the link, please.
Oh, I should. You got it from last night, didn't you?
Yes, I did. Thanks.
Okay, and by the way, our Christmas Eve is almost up to 400 now. Doing really good.
Very good. All
Which
right.
for us is amazing. Good night, everybody.